Hello, so I'm very happy to welcome today not one but two directors for the film Fairview Park. So we have Ellie Hodgetts, hello, and Émeric Nicolet.
Hi.
So before we talk about the film in itself, I just would like to know more about the fact that how someone from Switzerland and someone from Birmingham met and worked together on a film whose action is set in Dublin. And so can you tell me about the history of the project there and how you managed to work together on that?
Yeah, so we went to film school together in Leeds, and I was on the documentary filmmaking course and Émeric was on the fiction filmmaking course. But we started working together a little bit because you did the colour grade on
your graduation film.
My graduation film.
Yeah.
And Émeric was really keen to make a documentary and I was really keen to write and do fiction. So we just decided, since we were friends, that it might be a good idea to sort of cross over and sort of help each other out.
Yeah, and sort of, I think it was after graduation and leaving the film school, we just naturally ended up developing projects together, and so we shot the documentary first in France, and then at the same time we were developing the script for Fairview Park, which took about 3 years to be really until it got funding. So it was a long process, but and then between those we sort of did another short film together as well. So we sort of naturally found our way of working together, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so about Fairview Park, so it's a very sad story. It's a true story about the story of Declan Flynn, so a man who was assaulted in early 1980s, in 1982 in Dublin, so by a gang of people described queer bashers. So of course everybody understands what happened. How did you come upon that? Did you come upon that story? Was it something which is very well known in the UK, or is it something that you got to know about talking to people? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about the story beforehand, and I was doing some research on something else, and came across the story and was really surprised that I hadn't heard about it before, because I'm quite good with like my knowledge about queer history, especially like recent queer history. And then when we started talking to other people about it, no one else really knew about it either. Even then talking to Irish people and gay Irish people, there were a lot of people that didn't know about it.
Even some of the cast members.
Yeah, some of the cast members. So I think that made me, and I think all of us, like want to tell that story even more. Yeah,
and I think gradually sort of at the same time there was a lot of stories then gradually being told about Declan. I think there was a documentary being made around the same time, and I think it was becoming the 40 years of the attacks, and so there was some events being sort of put together at the same time. So it was, I think there was a sort of look back at their own history sort of happening in Ireland at that time.
All right. So in the process of making a film about the true story, how much work of a documentary filmmaker did you put into it, in research, in trying to find the locations and talk to the people, and what's the amount of process about narrative filming? So how did you share this thing?
I definitely think that the documentary background helped, because I think naturally I just really like doing all the research. And then, of course, we did some interviews and we spoke to the family. So I really brought that side of like my skill set into it. And then I also wrote it, but it was the first thing that I had written, and Émeric really helped with that because he had a lot more background with all of the narrative stuff.
And then I think it was a nice, like she said, balance of then me going, or maybe we should relinquish this real element because dramatically maybe this is more interesting, or let's try and maybe combine some of the characters into one or two of the like siblings. For example, they were more in the house, but we sort of merged some of the things into one character and things like this, just to find really the way to tell it also into a 15-minute short story. And dramatically make it interesting with stakes and sort of a drive and a structure to then build up to that, and sort of, I guess, focus really on Declan's interior part. And I think that's why also we decided to do a dramatization of it rather than a documentary. I think that was one of our main sort of argument in terms of not choosing documentary for telling this, but a true story sort of dramatization.
So in terms of casting, so how did you do that? What kind of process did you do to find the actors? The lead role is great. I mean, I think it's got a little look of Hugh Grant.
Everybody
Younger
says
Hugh Grant at the beginning. I thought,
Yeah.
So how did you process? Can you tell me about that?
I think it was like quite extensive for like in terms of a short film.
Yeah, I mean, our producer did go through a casting director, and she had quite a lot of specific briefs, because we wanted as much as possible Irish actors, and not so that it's not English people doing accents. We wanted someone. Well, initially I think we even looked at having someone with a stammer, like a real stammer, but it was maybe pushing it a bit too much.
Because we also wanted someone gay or
yes, and also lookalikes and things like this. And so there was a lot of criterias. There was someone with Down syndrome as well that we were looking for, Irish as well. And then she just pulled it off and just managed to find so many great people. And then we did 3 or 4 days of audition, I think. And Dennis was, I think, maybe on one of the last days over Zoom, because he couldn't make it to the UK. And it was just almost like a no-brainer. I think he had such a personal attachment to the story as well, that we were just really looking for.
It's great. Yeah, really. And so about rebuilding the atmosphere of Dublin in the 1980s, and even the very bad moment of the film, I would say, with beating up of the actor. I mean, did you read things about how things were committed when you thought about recreating this scene, or was it? I mean, we found, I think the first really accounts that you sort of come across when looking into this story was the actual attacks, and there are a lot of very specific descriptions of how it happened, based off the testimonies as well from the trials and things like that, newspapers, clippings, all kinds of things like that. So it was very sort of, it's actually more what happened before that was harder to find out, and because it's the part that nobody's interested in.
Fictionalized, like we've sort of played with that narrative, but the stuff like the bench scene and then until the end.
Some of the words as well, like some of those things were specifically quoted from what actually happened. So
so well, it makes it quite difficult to stand. I mean, when you watch it, but then. The ending, so it's not spoiling the film once again, because it's a true story, and so it has become known after. I mean, the fact that it's happened, but you've got a treatment in the end of the ending, which is quite at the same time very. It's a healing process, I think, because you can see this soul leaving the body in a way, and so we've got very conflicting things at the time, because we've got this writing on the screen telling us about the fact that the guy ran away free without any problem. It seems amazing. Even there was no way it was rejudged after. No. So it's something that you can't really understand when you read it now, and then after that, you've got some footage image with a tribute to Declan, and so you feel that communities maybe got forward after this. So it's mixed feelings about that. So how did you think about that scene, about the final passage of the film?
That sort of spiritual aspect was something that we had a lot of discussion about.
Yeah.
We went very
We
back and
even
forth.
filmed it in a way where we could still
Yeah.
decide in the edit room whether we would end with this or just end with Declan dying on the floor. But I think the main reason we initially even sort of put that idea in was that the purpose of, or the sort of line of direction for this short was to make it about Declan and not a story about, like a film about his death. And I personally also struggle sort of maybe ending the film on an image of just his dead body when we got to know him through the whole film. So it was just a way to just maybe not leaving that image with the audience as well, but, you know, sort of remember the man that he was rather than just, you know, a martyr, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a way to show both the brutality of what happened and be really honest about that, but also have this element of peace and closure. Yeah.
It works very well. No, really, because I was, as I said before, I mean, I was a bit surprised at first, but in the end, you know, you've got really the contrasting feelings with what you read, what you see, and then the footage in the end, and you feel okay. So it takes time. I mean, it's a film. I know it's very interesting because it's the kind of film that you keep it in your mind and you think about it for a while. So it's very good. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's very interesting, and I can't wait to watch it on big screen this evening. Thanks a lot.
Thank
you. Great pleasure.